Good afternoon, everyone. As you can see, I took myself to the farmer's market today to share a new lesson with you. I told you the other day when we talked about the parts of the flower that I had more stories to share with you. And so I wanted to share one of those stories today. Do you remember when we talked way back when we talked about the story of the flower and how the flowers call out in a secret silent language of color and scent, and they draw the pollinators to them with those scents and colors, and that when those visitors come to see them, they pick up a little bit of dust or pollen on their bodies, and as they go from flower to flower, they take some of that pollen from one and deposit it on the next and continue that pattern on. Then when we looked at the parts of the flower, we learned about how the pollen is on the anthers and that the pollen gets stuck to the sticky part of the pistil. And when that happens, something really special happens. The pollen travels down through the stalk of the pistil and goes down into the ovary and fertilizes an egg. And when that happens, those eggs or seeds begin to form. The ovary that surrounds the eggs begins to grow and strengthen and swells up to protect the fruit. And so I have a couple of fruits here. I'm going to switch our view. I have a couple of fruits here with me for us to talk about. So I have an apple, and I have a green pepper, and I have a pea. Okay, so when the ovary becomes swollen, the ovary becomes the fruit of the plant that we start to eat, or that we eat, that people like to eat. And the swollen ovary protects the seed. That's the job of the fruit, is to protect the seed. So all of these different types of fruits you see back here, their job is to protect the seed so that the seed can be transmitted and safely planted and to start a new plant. That's the life cycle of the plant. Okay, so I want to first talk to you about this pea. I'm going to set these guys over here off to the side. You can still see them, but I'll set them off to the side. I want to first talk about the pea. It's hard to see because of the green screen, but I wore my pea dress so that you could see the peas, but you couldn't see that because the peas are green. They're showing through. I'll switch. Let's see. Let me see if I can switch screens so you can see it. Nope, all that did was turn it black. So because of the green screen, you can't see that I wore my pea dress, but my dress has peas just like these all over it. Okay, so here I have a pea pod, and I want to talk to you about this one because this is really special. Sometimes when the stamen, the part of the flower, when the stamen has done its job and the pistil, the sepals, and the petals, they've all done their job, they wither and they fall off. But sometimes they don't fall completely off, and I think you can see here that there is still part of the flower attached to this pea. Let's see how close I can get. Do you see the petal, the little things that look like petals right up in here? That's still, whoa, that's still part of the flower that you can see here on the pea. I don't think if I bring it over here, yep, it's on the green screen, so you won't be able to see it. So that's still part of the flower. So on this pea pod, this end, this is the part of the stigma. And if you remember from our parts of the flower lesson yesterday, the stigma on the flower, and here's the stigma that's still there on the fruit. So this pea pod has part of the flower still remaining. It has the stigma. I'm going to set our little pea pod right over here with its stigma attached. And here I have a green pepper. And when we look at the green pepper, maybe you've looked at them closely when you've cut them up. If you look right here at the top where the stem comes in, these parts right up in here, let's see if I can get it, there you go, right around in here, those are the sepals. And when we dissected our tulip yesterday, we didn't have any sepals on a tulip, but many flowers do have sepals. And on this one, the sepals are right here. I'll write a ticket for that, sepals. The sepals have a really important job. The sepals protect the flower bud before it opens. And so the sepals have a really important job. Just not all flowers have a sepal. So I'm going to put that there. We'll leave that here. Okay, Now I have our apple to talk about. So our apple is really cool. Our apple has its stem at the top. If we turn it over and look at the bottom of it, see if I can do that without losing the focus. Right down in here, we see the parts of the flower still in there. I don't know how close I can get. And you can still see. Let's see if I can do this. Oh, kind of. So if you have an apple at home, you can check this out. Inside there, you can see all sorts of parts of the flower. The main one that we're seeing there is the stamen. So I'm going to set that there, and I'm going to write a label for that, stamen. The stamen are right inside there. So remember, the purpose of the fruit or the function of the fruit is to protect the seeds. If we were to pop any of these ones open or cut any of these open, so I'll do that with the pea. If we were to cut this open, I'm just gonna pinch it till it pops. And we cut it open, the seed pod is the swollen ovary that's protecting the seeds. And if we open it up, you can see the seeds are right there. So the seeds are protected by the ovary, and the ovary is part of the flower where the seeds are stored before they're fertilized by the pollinator. So the seeds are inside. That's one way you can tell if something's a fruit or not. If it has seeds inside of it, that means it's a fruit. So a lot of the time people think things like tomatoes are vegetables or cucumbers are vegetables, but they're actually fruits because tomatoes and cucumbers are swollen ovaries protecting their seeds. The flesh part that we eat has grown to protect the seeds. Okay, so when we think about this, we think about the part that we eat is the ovary or the swollen ovary that's protecting the seeds. That's the delicious part for us to eat. And the plant has developed that because if we eat these or if wild animals eat these out in the wild and then they move to a different area and they leave their scat behind, the seeds are left where the scat is and they have a chance to be transported and start a new plant in another location. So it's kind of a good adaptation that they have developed this to have fruit that is good to eat. Some plants or some fruits have grown protective shells or protective coverings to keep them from being eaten, and we will talk about those in another lesson. But think about some of those fruits that aren't so pleasant to eat. Maybe they have spiny outsides or hard shells. Think about the coconut. The coconut has a really hard shell, and so it's not as easy to eat. If you come across it, it's not as easy to pick up and eat. My coconut is at school, the big one that we talk about with the big husk on it, so I don't have that. Some plants grow their fruits underground, which is very interesting to think about. So think about the peanut. The peanut is a fruit, but the nuts grow underground. So not all fruits grow on trees or bushes. Some fruits even grow underground. So that's something to think about. The fruit's job is to protect the seed. Selena's over there giving me a look like she didn't know that. So that's something to think about when you're eating your fruit, that the job of the fruit is to protect the seeds, to make sure that the seeds, once they're fertilized, that they make their journey back to the earth to be planted and start a new plant. So when you're eating your fruit, look for parts of your flowers. On the peas, you can see the stigma. And on peppers, you can see sepals. And on apples and pears and other fruits like this, you can see the stamen right up here. So next time you're having a snack or fruit with a meal, go ahead and wow your families with your newfound knowledge about fruits and the flower parts that they come from. I can't wait to share more about fruits with you, and I hope you tune into our next lesson. Have a great day. Bye-bye.